Live in a minute here, or in like 10 seconds. And all right, a couple more seconds and we will go ahead and get started here. All right, hey, my name is David. Welcome back to the channel. And today we're going to be covering the topic of social media for authors. Now, this video is going to be broken down into 3 different parts. Like 2 main parts and then 1 extra thing at the end. So we're going to cover like 4 questions that I think through when developing a social media strategy for myself and when I've helped other authors kind of think through where they need to be posting, what they need to be posting, like what questions should you be asking yourselves before you go ahead and spend money or time developing content for your social media. So we're going to go through those questions, some tips that are going to help you do better, and I try to stay away from things that you can read at anywhere else online. So these are tips that I don't think are as widely known, and that's why if you use them, you're going to have like a little bit of an advantage over the people just reading like the regular articles that are like post 2 times a day and you'll grow your following. That stuff doesn't really work in 2020. I feel like you need to have a little bit more clarity around your strategy, and so that's what I want to talk about today. So we're going to cover those questions in the first half of this presentation. The second half of it is going to be a tutorial into the MeetEdgar software. So that's one of the key pieces that I use as part of my overall strategy, and I'll explain why when we talk through what should you actually be doing and posting online, and that'll make it clear why you need a tool like MeetEdgar to help you do that well. And then the very last little bit is I'm going to show you a free social media course that you can take. I think it's normally like $200, but because of the whole era that we're in with all the uncertainty and things, the company that made this course actually set it to free for a limited period of time. So as of posting this, it's free. I don't know how long it's going to be free for, but if you're interested in that, make sure you check out the links below after I get this video done. And at the end of the stream, I'll be talking about that and showing you what you can learn there. So let's go ahead and switch to the computer screen. All right, and minimize this. Cool, so this is a little presentation that I put together. Kind of bring order to my thoughts so that you can get all the content in a nice, easy to digest way. Let me just make sure my phone doesn't ring in the middle of all this. Okay, so we are gonna go ahead and get started. Now the first question that we kind of go through is why use social media at all? I've gone back and forth. At one point, like maybe 2 years ago, I was very much like in the Gary Vaynerchuk mindset where I was posting a lot, everywhere, all the time, and I wasn't seeing the results that I wanted for that. And so then I just kind of went the other way entirely, the Cal Newport digital minimalism kind of way. I deleted basically my entire Instagram and Twitter. I shut down a few of the extra Facebook groups I had. Like I really went down to the absolute bare minimum. And then again, on that end of the spectrum, I wasn't really happy with what was going on there either. Like the community, you could feel it dry up a little bit when I did that. And even though I wasn't seeing a lot of income from all those different sources of social connection, they were still important in their own way, and it took shutting them down to understand why. So fast forward to today, I've experimented a lot, and I think if you look across my social media platforms, that's what you're going to get. You're going to see me kind of in the middle of a bunch of experiments because I want to see what's working now, like not just doing what I used to do or doing what everyone else is doing. Like I want to play the games according to what I want to create and what might work best for my audience. And so what I'm telling you is best practices from the people I trust, from people who I know in person who have succeeded on social media. And then they're also learned from the experiments I've done and have seen success with. So that's what I'm sharing with you. That's kind of the reason behind it. So why use social media? If we jump down, it's it's still like we can't get away from that social aspect. It's to deepen relationships with real human beings. If you are trying to hack, if you're trying to hack your book sales by getting in the right category and just getting enough reviews, but you're not really connecting with the readers, that's not a long-term strategy. That's just a way to get a quick buck, and then when the algorithm changes or when you fall off, the KDP cliff, then your sales are gone. And so the same way, like with social, it's not about hacking some kind of algorithm to make you popular. You can do that, but a much more sustainable strategy is to connect with real people in real ways. And you do that by being human, which is something I'm going to talk about a few times throughout this presentation, like this live stream. Like if you're not being human on social media, then you're kind of missing the whole point of what it was created for. Like, yeah, there's people succeeding in ways that they're not being their honest selves. But that's not why I do what I do. That's probably not why you do what you do. Like as authors, we're writing something we believe in. We're sharing stories and ideas that we want to last, and presenting our real selves on social media, imperfections and all, doing videos like this that aren't the best edited or best put together. They invite people in to be a part of your story, and the people coming to your content want you to be a part of theirs. And when you keep that in mind, then all the other tactics and stuff, they just aren't as useful. Like you can use them within the context of deepening a relationship, but you got to keep that goal at the forefront of your mind and your creations. Again, why use social media? It's a way to promote your work. It's a way to share what you're doing with people who otherwise wouldn't find it. There's lots of book lovers that I know who don't ever buy books on Amazon. That's just not where they go to shop for books. They're very much in the indie book movement, or they're Barnes and Noble people for life. And sharing my work, sharing my writing, sharing my words on social media platforms where they are exposes them to a book or an idea or something I've published that they would have never seen otherwise. In the same way, when you're using social media as an author, you're not just re-engaging the same people, you're also reaching new people, and that's important to keep in mind for, again, the type of things you're going to be creating and posting. And again, last thing, like show human side, just remember you're a real human connecting to real humans. That is what social media is at the end of the day. And if you, when people forget that, that's when they don't see the results that they want. When they treat it like a numbers game or an algorithm that they want to manipulate, they don't end up with anything good, and they wonder why. It's because you're not being human. All right. Second question is where to post. And so you're going to get tons of different answers depending on the people that you're engaging with and the community that you're in. Again, like I said before, I was really into the Gary Vaynerchuk mindset for a while, where I had to post everywhere all the time, be very wide. And then I went the other direction with Cal Newport and basically turned off my social media presence. I think there's a happy middle to do that, and that's what I want to talk about. So again, my whole concept is depth over breadth. You are trying to be a real human connecting with other real humans online. And so I always advise the people in my courses and so on to take 1 or 2 platforms at most, preferably just one, and go really deep on that. Study what the best people on that platform are doing, and then copy that in your own way. So not like just download their post and post it on your wall. That's not what I'm talking about. If they are, like for YouTube, if they are posting once or twice a week, copy that same schedule. If they are doing, certain types of videos that would resonate with your audience, learn how to do that same type of video. On Facebook, right now, video content is very big, or just plain text, like long form text. Learn how they're doing, how often they're posting, what kind of content they're posting, and then bring those principles over and do those same things as you develop your own voice. So the goal isn't to always be just like everyone else. the goal is to learn the best practices from the people who are succeeding at that platform and then learn how to make them your own. So again, depth over breadth. As I go through, we're going to talk about how you can use MeetEdgar to kind of be the backbone of your overall strategy. And so my thing is, pick one or two platforms to go deep on and then be present on the rest. Be searchable or findable everywhere else. You don't have to spend the same amount of energy creating on those platforms, but the idea is if someone's a fan of yours and they want to find you somewhere where they spend time, they should be able to find you no matter where that is. Now that kind of goes against my old philosophy, but everything we do should be in service to our readers. So no, I might not want to be as present on Twitter or Instagram because my preferences are Facebook and YouTube, but for the sake of my readers, I'm going to make sure that I do have an account and that account has some useful content for what they're looking for. And then when I post links or so on Twitter or Instagram, I'm going to be driving them back to my home bases of Facebook or YouTube because that's where the majority of my audience lives. That's where the majority of the content is created for. And if they're really interested in connecting on a deeper level, then they're going to take the initiative to go where it's happening. And so the same thing, when you're thinking through, think through the one or two that you want to be deep on, and then how you can be minimally present on the rest in service of your readers. And then, the second point here is to self-evaluate what you like. I love YouTube. I could spend hours getting lost on there. And the best conversations I've had were on Facebook and Facebook messages with readers, with friends. And so, it's not a chore when I spend time on those platforms. I enjoy it. And so the same thing, pick a platform that you enjoy being on because then it's not going to be I have to do that. When I schedule in, I have a weekly schedule of what I'm going to do on the different platforms. That schedule used to shut me down because I was like, this sounds annoying, busy work. I don't want to be doing all this. But these days it's I get to do a few live videos on YouTube and talk about things I enjoy talking about, share useful, helpful information, hopefully. If you find it useful, hit a thumbs up right now. And and then on Facebook, I get to go have real conversations with real people who have either read my work or are wanting to write books themselves. All of that I would be doing, whether or not it was on my schedule because I enjoy those activities. So in the same way, if you're a photographer or if you just love to go on rants, photographers, go on Instagram. If you love to rant, go on Twitter. That seems to be a really big thing for writers to do. And so just find what works with who you are. Don't try to be someone else because then again, you're missing the point. Let's go ahead and jump to the next one. What to post. Now I have some good tips here. Obviously this is going to depend on the platform that you choose, the kind of writing that you do, the age and demographic of your audience. And so all of that aside, yes, learn all that stuff. What I'm going to share here is more overarching things that are going to be true regardless of the genre you're in, regardless of the audience that you're reaching. So the first little tip here is geared more towards nonfiction authors. But again, you can use this creatively if you think through it. So how are you solving their problem? A lot of my earlier work was in the religious or inspirational genres. And so I made sure that a lot of what I was sharing online fit that same thing. So people were coming to my work for either, a deeper insight into some philosophical truth or, inspiration to get them excited for the day or through a difficult period in their life. And so what I was posting on social media echoed those same sentiments. It, pretty much everything I posted fell into those categories. And so what I'm going to show you in a second here are 5 categories that you should be aiming to fill. You don't have to fill all 5, but you should pick maybe one, maybe two, depending on your genre, that you can keep reiterating content for. Second one here is the 80-20 rule for sales. So a lot of what you share online, the majority of what you share across your social media is going to be to deepen the relationship and to basically entertain your audience. You're sharing articles or videos that you've enjoyed, you're sharing new pieces of writing, you're just connecting, having real conversations. And then 1 out of every 10 posts, maybe once a week, depending how often you're posting, that's when you're going to share a link to your book, or say like, hey, this weekend my book's on sale for 99 cents. Here's a link. Make sure you share this with anyone who would be interested. If people are seeing something like that regularly, like on a weekly, bi-weekly basis, but it's not every single post that you do, they're going to appreciate that because they're being reminded, oh yeah, this is an author I want to support, whose work I enjoy, but they're not going to feel like they're being sold to every time they look at your Facebook page or Twitter feed. So just think through that. The majority of what you make is going to be to connect and entertain, and then the very small portion, 10-20% at most, is going to be related to the sales, getting them to your books, getting them to your email lists, and so on. All right, and then the 5 categories. So these 5 categories were actually pulled out of, I believe it was a New York Times article that was talking about a study of virality online. And so now if you do your research, like these are posted in a bunch of different social media communities because these are kind of like the 5 gold standards of what you should be posting. So the whole idea behind these are that your content should evoke an emotional reaction from your reader or from your viewer connector. So adventure. When you think about adventure, you can think about like the travel channels. So travel YouTubers, Facebook pages or Twitters that are constantly traveling. They're inviting you to be a part of their adventure. And so that is, that's the emotion that they're evoking. You can also think about food, like a lot of food channels use this adventure element. Oh, this is something you've probably never eaten, or this is something that you've never seen cooked this way before. And so that, that element of something that hasn't been experienced yet, that's what adventure is trying to hit at. I get some water there. All right, so humor. Pretty self-explanatory. If you're funny, if you write comedy, if you have characters that are sassy, or if you like to explain things like nonfiction ideas in contrarian kind of ways, then definitely that humor can be appreciated and it's shareable. As long as, like, a lot of time the cleaner humor will be spread more easily. If your humor is not as clean, you're probably gonna build a really strong audience, but it might not spread as far. The next one is emotion. So they use the word emotion. All of these are supposed to evoke an emotion, but this one specifically is like the tearjerker moments. So when you see the videos of a soldier coming home and surprising their kid or wife, or something with animals like being adopted, things that are like, oh, pull at the heartstrings. That's the kind of content that's going to be shared, that's going to be appreciated, that's going to be memorable. And so when you're thinking about your books, like what emotional elements are present in your books, or it could be, like a web connected even tangentially to your book, how can you create content that drives people to be interested in what you do? All right, inspiration. I kind of touched on this before. That's what I used to post. The very simple version of this are the quotes you see shared everywhere online 1,000 times a second. But then again, you can get more creative with that inspiration. So what I did for a period of time was actually short form stories and short form like speeches basically. And they did really well. I did it on Instagram and Facebook. And the whole idea here is get at the heart of what your reader is trying to accomplish or what they're hoping for. And then once you get a clear idea, solid idea on what that is, then you can kind of reverse engineer content that's going to speak directly to that. So obviously all these we can go into more depth. I'm just trying to give you a nice high overview of what we're talking about. And last one is surprise. One of my favorite examples of this is probably the YouTube. It's like a father-son team that they cut stuff in half. It's like What's Inside or something. I forget the channel name. But the whole allure of their channel, the reason their videos get millions of views is because, I've never seen in the middle of, I forget, something they've cut, like a soccer ball or things like that. Or a tennis ball or things like that. They've cut some pretty expensive things. It's definitely, I'll link to that channel below because it's worth watching. But yeah, is there some element of your writing, of your content, of your community that surprise could play an element in? So you don't have to go cut something in half. That's a cool, easy way to do it. But as especially nonfiction authors, we do a lot of research for our books. We read a lot of random, interesting facts that never end up in our books. Like I have piles of notebooks with interesting things that, I can never, hopefully one day I can fit into other books, but they never made it into the original projects because I had so much other information that needed to be there. So going back, finding that, sharing those as, little tidbits, making little videos about them, finding ways to share the things we already know we're already being exposed to, but in an interesting, surprising way is going to be awesome if you know how to do that. All right, when and how often should you post? This is the last question we're going to touch on before we jump into the MeetEdgar tutorial. So when we talk about when or how often to post, the course I'm going to link to, and that I'm going to show you in 5 minutes here, they're gonna go into a lot more detail about this. And again, the when and how often depends on what platform you're using and what audience you're trying to reach. So I'm not going to just throw out random numbers because it's not going to be as helpful until you actually get specific on what you want to do. And I think that course that I'm going to share is going to be useful for that. So again, the MeetEdgar tool is basically a system that lets you reuse content. So normally if you write a blog post, you share that blog post and then you forget about it because you're working on new material. So what MeetEdgar does is you basically build a library of all your content. So you can do posts, images, videos, so on and so forth, and then you can recycle them on however, you can set timers and so on, so that let's say your blog post that does really well will be shared once every 3 months or once every 5 weeks, however you want to shape that. And that way, that piece of content isn't just going and dying in the wasteland and never being shared again. That way, new people are being shown it every so often. And if you see the percentages on Facebook or Twitter, for the majority of people, only 2 to 3% of your audience is ever seeing anything that you post. So sharing something once a month, once a quarter, and so on is doing your audience a benefit because the majority of people are not going to see it the first time that you share it. So sharing things regularly, sharing things over and over again, introducing people, new fans to old content are all good things to do because you don't have to reinvent the wheel every week. That's one of the big things I would love to change in the indie community is that it's so fast. It's so speed-based. You have to be publishing tons of words every day. You have to be posting nonstop all the time. And I'm just not into that. I prefer slower pace. I prefer deeper work. I prefer to take more time with the ideas that I want to share. And having tools help me do that. Having tools that are going to take over that little piece of mental energy so that I can use that for creativity, so I can use that on something else. And I think there's a lot of authors out there who don't think they can be successful as indie authors or in this field right now because they don't want to go that fast either. And that's why I want to create the videos that I'm creating, do these live talks, because I think getting the message out there that you don't have to, you can define what your work is going to look like, and also define what success is going to look like for your work. If you want to be a 7-figure author, then you're going to have to do things, you're probably going to have to move faster than most. But if you are working towards the ideal of enoughness, if you are understanding I want to write these kind of books, this many books a year, and I'm okay making 50 to 80 grand a year doing that, then you can really choose whatever kind of pace you want. So all of that aside, that was a little bit aside. The question that we're on is when or how often to post. Again, it's one of those things that it's going to depend a lot. I don't want to just throw out random numbers to you. That's why I made sure to go find this course that's free. I feel like it's going to be really useful for you, especially if you're newer to social media, or you just haven't taken a course in a few years and you want to be like, all right, I'm going to take this seriously. I really want to figure out how social media can support my work as an author. That's what this whole video is about. So we are going to go jump over to the MeetEdgar tutorial now. So I'm going to show you behind the scenes, and then we're going to talk about the actual details, the pricing, and so on. So again, MeetEdgar is a tool that reshares content for you. It makes that aspect of your online presence easier, so that depending on how you shape it, once a day, multiple times a day, depending on what platforms you want, you're going to have a steady stream of content there for your audience. And then the rest of the content that you want to make can be in person, can be live, can be, one-on-one contact. MeetEdgar is a part. It's there to support your overall strategy. It's not there to replace your strategy. And I think when it first came out, I remember there being a lot of conversation around it at the beginning because people weren't using it correctly. They were thinking, oh, this is awesome. I can put all of my social media on autopilot and I can just spend all my time writing books and so on. And that's not the right way to use it. The right way to use it is to have it support the other things you're doing on social media. And so that's why I figured doing an updated kind of tutorial on it, especially for authors, is going to be useful. So first, we are going to talk about the tabs up here, what they are, what they do, how to navigate inside the MeetEdgar system, and then we are going to actually add a piece of content so you can see what that whole process looks like. So let's start at the beginning here. The first is your library. So this is all the content that you have in the MeetEdgar system. We're going to talk about all the little distinct parts that you see here. But basically, you can go through and see what is here. If you connect an RSS feed, like for a blog or so on, it will pull in content automatically, and then you can go in and edit like the category that it's in, the frequency of its posting, and so on. Again, I'm going to show you all that when we add new content. On the side here, you can filter your library to kind of find what you're looking for. Let's say you want to, review everything that is going to be posted to LinkedIn. Then you can pull that up and see maybe I don't want that posted to LinkedIn anymore. Maybe I only want that to be like a Twitter document or so on. So that's your library. The queue is the order that your library is going to be presented in. So you can see the queue, it says it up here. It shows what the next 2 weeks of content are going to be shared by MeetEdgar. So at the very top here, you can see that today, Monday, April 13th, at about 4:05 p.m., there's going to be something that goes out to my Facebook page, to my LinkedIn, and to my Twitter. Now, for this instance, it's all three are going to be sharing the same thing. You don't have to do it like that. I have a few videos from my older YouTube channel, same channel, it's just older YouTube content that I have shared basically every Monday in order. It's one of the experiments I'm doing. But you can actually have like a different piece of content going out to each different platform, whatever time you want. So again, the queue shows when you are sharing things. The schedule is what you're actually going to build yourself, so you can decide what is going to be posted, where it's going to be posted, and when. It's very easy. If we click inside it, you can see that you choose the accounts that are going to be shared, the category that's going to be shared at that time, and then the frequency. So I have a different type of content shared at a different time every day, but you can make it much more succinct. You can have something shared at 10 o'clock every single day, just by clicking a button. All right, we're gonna go to the import tab. Now again, this is what I was talking about before. If you want to use RSS feeds, where you can pull things directly from YouTube or a blog or so on. If you have a CSV file of tweets or so on, again, they make it very easy for you to build out your library without spending like hours individually adding everything that you ever made online. All right, so we're gonna go to categories. So I'll talk about the different versions of MeetEdgar. You can have as little as 4 categories or as many as unlimited. And so right now, the way I'm using them are general. I basically use general for a throwaway until I update that individual item and put it into a more distinct category. I have blog posts, videos, and books. And so basically the blog posts and the videos are the content, the things that I'm sharing on repeat to introduce people to what I've created. And then the books are the sales, like the 80-20 rule that I talked about before. I actually recently emptied this because I wanted to go in and re-update the text I had for each one. So I figured I just want to start from scratch. And so these are going to be shared only like once a week max, because again, I'm not spamming people on my platforms. I want them to be engaged and then sold to very rarely. If we jump over to the accounts tab, this is where you're actually going to add the different social media platforms that you're using. Right now, these are the options I have. If you go again, we're going to talk about the different versions. You can add much more than that, and you can build out like a crazy big sheet of all the platforms you want to share to. If you go to history, this is going to be a nice way to recount when was the last time I shared that? Am I sharing videos too often? Am I sharing this blog post too often, or so on? And then they give you little stats here so you can see the click-through rate, and so on, the number of times that content has been used. So if eventually once you use MeetEdgar for a while, you're gonna find that you're gonna weed out the content every so often. So I have articles or videos that were specifically for a time period, like a 2018 tutorial or so on. And I know that I'm not gonna share that forever. I'm gonna delete that piece of content, or a blog that has a better updated version, more in-depth version. So I'll trade that out. So this history tab is a nice way to be reminded of what you're sharing, how often it's being shared, and be aware of when it's time to maybe weed out that content. You can see my name, David, up there. That's how you get to all the account settings. And now we're going to go ahead and add a new piece of content so you can see what that looks like. So I'm just going to do a little piece of text. This is a new piece of content. There we go. And I'm going to have it not shown anywhere, just like to Twitter. So you can choose what platforms it shows to. You can then choose what categories it falls into. I'm going to leave it in general just for the sake of the exercise. And then you can add the additional media. So you can add a photo, and it shows the limits on the screen. So if you see for Facebook, you can upload X amount of images. For Twitter, only 4. You can upload a video directly to MeetEdgar, and then it'll share it natively to the different platforms. You can do advanced setting where it could just use that piece of content once, or let's say you're doing a special for the next quarter and you want to share this every Friday to direct people to that. So you can have this expire in exactly 3 months, and that way you set it and forget it. The add variation is a really cool tool. So the main way I use this is, let's say you're sharing a blog post, and most of the time, like, people either share a blog post without any text above it or with like the same one sentence phrase. So what add variation does is it will take your blog post and then it will pull out multiple different sentences so that every time that blog post is shared, it's not shared with the same image or same piece of text. Like, it will look like a different piece of content every time it's shared. So that way it will engage people in a new way, or the same people will be that maybe didn't click on it before will click on it now because you're testing it with different text and different images. It's just a really cool thing that, by clicking a button, you've now taken one piece of content and figured out how to share it 5 or 10 different ways. That way, again, you're just driving more people to better content or new content and just reintroducing your audience to it over and over again. All right, so let's go ahead and just save the library real quick. You can see that saved, and so now we're going to jump over to schedule, and let's say I want that shared every Wednesday at noon. So I'm going to click on the Wednesday at noon, and I'm going to click on general and then Twitter and hit save. So every Wednesday at noon now, my MeetEdgar system is going to go into the general tab, find any content that's there, pick one, and share it only to my Twitter account. And so, nice and easy. I don't ever have to think about it again. Let me just delete that for now. If you, right now, you can see that all these are grayed out and have random. If you don't care which category it pulls from, you can just select random and then it'll pull from any of them. Since I don't have any sales content on there right now for my books, that's why everything I have is just, the normal consume content kind of content. So I have it random right now. And then I'll go in individually and add a books category so that I know exactly when my sales content is being shared and how often. So that was a really broad overview, simple overview of how to use MeetEdgar. Again, you can do a lot more complicated things with it. I was just showing you the bare minimum, how it can support your social media strategy online. So let's get out of here and show you. So the normal package starts at $49 a month. Again, remember how much time it's saving you. When I was looking to either hire a freelancer or things like that, I was looking at setting aside a few $100s a month. So then when I realized MeetEdgar would literally do exactly the same thing I wanted, but for $50, I was like, oh, that's, awesome, golden. But now they even have another plan. Let me show you. It's like, this one is called Edgar, and the smaller plan is called Eddie, which was pretty cute. So this one's actually only $19 a month, and I'll have a link to it below. You have fewer options, so you can only share up to 10 posts a week instead of unlimited, and you can connect 3 accounts instead of 25. But again, if you're an indie author, you probably don't have 25 social media accounts, nor should you. I don't know how many accounts you're making. But that way, you can just use the basics. I have a pretty big audience on LinkedIn and Facebook, and so those are my main priorities. I share natively to Instagram for the most part, and then Twitter, I have a few different things on there. So honestly, for me, the $19 a month was all I needed to meet the demands that I wanted to create. And yeah, so it does, literally everything I showed you can be done with the $19 a month program. You can also upgrade to this one, but I feel depending on how much content you have to share, if you have a nice big backlist of blog posts, if you have a big content library of social media and graphics already created, then something like this might be useful. But for people just starting out, then I think this is a good place to start, because then you can get your wheels rolling and not be overwhelmed by all the different options that you have. So again, that's the 2 different pricing models that they have. I'll have a link to the website below so you can figure out what might work best for you. And the last piece I wanted to talk about is the course. So again, I mentioned this course a few times throughout the video. It's called Social Brilliant, and it's actually created by the founders of MeetEdgar. Again, it's normally a $200 course that literally has been $200 the entire time I've been a MeetEdgar user for 2 years, and this last month, because of everything going on, that's when they made it drop down to free. So if you go through, you're going to see that they answer some of the questions we talked about. They're going to answer it in a lot more depth, and these are actually social media experts. One of the things here is how many times should I post on social media? Again, that was one of the questions that I didn't want to just throw out numbers for. I want you to figure out what platform you're going to use and then find an answer for that platform. And so that's what they help you do here. Again, I'll have a link to this completely free. You can see the curriculum down here. So they spend the first piece talking about blogging, podcasting, videos, kind of like your content strategy online, and then how you bring that into social media. Where should you be posting? How often should you be posting? What kind of material should you be posting? And again, once you're in this, you'll get a better idea of how to shape your strategy for your authorness, for the books that you're writing, for the audience that you're reaching. I found this and I was like, I have to make sure people know about it because it's a really cool tool. And you should take advantage of that. So again, that's the free course. I'll have a link below. So I hope you found this video helpful. I know it was kind of broad. We touched on a lot of different things. I wanted to make sure we covered the facets of social media before we just went into the MeetEdgar tool, because I think if people get off track with all the different tools there are and all the different things that there are to spend money on as an author, all these promises are being made, but when you can focus in on why you're doing what you're doing, then it helps you answer the questions of what should I spend my time on, what should I spend my money on. Those are answered a lot easier. So if you found that useful, make sure you share this video, give it a thumbs up. If you know other authors who are struggling with the social media piece of their business, have them watch this, see if they get any good takeaways. I definitely recommend checking out the MeetEdgar tool. I've personally found it useful, been using it for a while now. And then the course. The course is going to probably do a way better job than I did of explaining the ins and outs of social media, especially in 2020. Things aren't over. You're not too late to anything. Anyone can start anything at any time. And if you're doing it right, if you're creating great content, if you're connecting as a real human with other humans, then you're going to do well online. It's a game of patience. It's a game of just showing up and creating things that you believe in and connecting in a real way. So that's my whole thing for today. If you haven't subscribed yet, go ahead and subscribe. I make new videos Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. I'm doing a series of author videos every Monday. I'm doing a series of more tech-focused videos every Wednesday. And then for at least the next month or so, we're reviewing other author websites every Friday, just so you can get an idea of what they're doing well and what they can improve upon. So subscribe and you'll be notified when any of those go live. And all right, so that's all I have for you today. Thank you again for watching. Good luck on your author journey, and I will see you next time.